Hey guys, and welcome back. I am getting ready for the day, but I thought it'd be a great time for me to talk about what it really takes to become a successful creator and what character traits can really help you if you're looking to be in this industry, especially if you want to be a full-time creator. So like I said, I'm going to be getting ready for today. I need to take out some of my makeup items, but I wrote down this list that we're going to go through because I think it is something that if you are really pursuing content creation in 2025, you have to pay attention to. There's just no getting around it. Starting out with some skincare. So the first thing on the list, and I'm looking up because I'm looking into my makeup vanity in case you guys want to know, but the first thing that's on the list is consistency regardless of view count. So people typically get discouraged being a content creator after about 3 months, and then majority of people, and I mean like 70% of people, fall off after a year. So what that means to me, and when I learned this, I really realized that if I could just keep going and persevering for a year, then I'll be fine. Like, I will be beating out the competition because, for one thing, the more you post, the more data you collect and the more you can see like what content is working for you, and we'll come back to that in a second. But when you are committed to your goals and when you simply just outwork the competition, there really becomes no competition. And it's really interesting because I recently saw a video on TikTok of this girl. I don't remember her name, but I'm going to see if I can find the video. And she said that she had started her YouTube channel the same day as Jackie Aina. So most people know who she is, but in case you don't, she started as a beauty creator on YouTube and is now like a lifestyle creator, has her own brand, has millions of followers across multiple platforms, and is a really big creator in the beauty space, specifically for Black women. And the person that made the video said that she started her YouTube channel the same day as Jackie Aina. So the first video that she uploaded was the same day that Jackie had uploaded her first video. And she said the difference is Jackie has a bunch of followers and that girl stopped after a year. Or maybe it was less than a year. I'm not totally sure how long she stopped. But the thing is, she stopped. And because of that, she wasn't able to really build a platform. Like, she doesn't really have a personal brand for herself, and it's something that she like really deeply regrets, is that she just didn't continue going. And she says that the reason why she didn't continue going was because she thought her videos aren't getting any views, this is a waste of time, so she's just gonna stop where she is. And I thought this was a really interesting video because, for one thing, people can point to it and be like, oh, well, you know, that's just a very specific situation. Every creator doesn't blow up and have millions of followers, yada, yada, yada. But to the point that the girl was making in her video is that when you stop, you have no idea what is even possible or in the works for you because you stopped. Like, there's no way she could know, you know, where she would be. But the reason why she doesn't know is because she had stopped. Obviously, we all have our own talents. We all have different things that we are good at and that, you know, make us excel. So it's not to say that she would be at the same level as Jackie Aina or not. I mean, maybe she would be bigger. Who knows? But the point is that you have to keep going. Am I okay? I don't know what just happened. The point is you have to keep going regardless of the view counts. And again, the view counts is what really holds people back because they're like, oh, well, you know, no one's watching my videos. But at the same time, the people that are watching your videos, even if it's just 100 people, like, those people look forward to seeing your content. And those are people that I generally create for whenever I am creating content that I know just isn't going to perform as well as my other content pieces. Of like, even though this isn't going to do massive numbers, I know the people that do watch this appreciate it and they're going to enjoy it, and that, you know, they're going to also comment on it. And we're going to come back to that topic in a second too. But you have to be consistent in this content creation game. If you think you're going to start creating for 3 months and, you know, after that you're gonna stop if nothing happens, well, you're gonna have to think again, because this is an industry that lasts a long time. And I mean it takes a long time for you to really grow, and the people that you see that are really popping off have been here for literally over 10 years. So you expecting to pop off and have the same, you know, follower count, same opportunities, the same everything as them in a matter of, you know, just a few months is kind of insane. And you can look at this with any major creator that you see right now, because there are so many. But when you look at their story, you look at what they have done, you realize that, like, oh, they actually been working on this for the last like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So yeah, definitely always be consistent. And in case you haven't gotten that from my channel, you're definitely going to get it from this video. The other thing that really has made me successful in this, and by the way, I define successful creator as me connecting with my audience of people who really need to hear whatever it is I have to say, like things that I share that really just vibe with it, and also making an income so that I can like survive every day. That to me is success. A lot of people define success in having, you know, certain brand partnerships or having certain number of bags or having their house look a certain way or whatever. I didn't get into this for the money. I didn't even know people were making money. And I've talked about this before on my page, if you guys have seen any of my other videos, but I didn't know people were making money from this. So when I was doing it, I did it practically for free for about 2 years because I just really enjoyed what I was doing. And again, it just goes to show on how consistency really pays off, because after that 2 years, literally the start of January 2022, that was when I started to get monetized. And imagine if I had quit after just 1 year of creating, of like, oh, well, you know, I'm not making any money, so I might as well stop here. Like, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be a full-time creator. I wouldn't be living in LA. I wouldn't have had all the opportunities I've had in the last, 5 years. And so anyway, the second thing that I want to talk about is really persevering through everything, especially if you aren't receiving support from people that you would want support from. So typically those people are like your closest friends and your family members. And I've talked about this in another video, but basically when I started creating content, I didn't tell any of my family or my friends, and I was just doing it out of my own enjoyment. Like, I just really enjoyed creating content and I liked what I did. I thought it was fun. I started because I didn't have any friends and my goal was to just make friends online. That was literally it. It wasn't supposed to be this whole big thing. I was just having a great time. When I started to become monetized, when I started taking it more seriously, I did recognize that a lot of the people that were closest to me that I really valued and that I really wanted to continue. Oh my gosh, I'm doing this in the wrong order. Give me a second to get myself together. I also need like a little napkin. Okay, I want to make sure my face is long lasting, so I am going to add more setting spray than what I normally do, but let's get back to what I was talking about. So when I did start monetizing my content, I started taking it more seriously and I started to look at it as a means for us additional income. I did recognize that people that I really liked in my everyday life, didn't support my content, and they watched. And the reason how I know that they watched is because they would say things to me about it in person, but they wouldn't actually engage with the content. And everyone at every point in time experiences this, and it's always the people that will surprise you the most, that you're like, wow, like you really don't rock with me like that. Okay, I got it. And I don't know if it comes from a place of jealousy or whatever. I think it's very individualistic. Like, it really depends on the person on why they don't support your content, but insist on watching it and kind of like being a ghost follower. But I took note of those people and I was like, okay, I see that you're watching me. I see that you are, trying the products I'm talking about. I see that you are keeping up with my content. And I also see that you don't even like it. All right, fine. And it was a pretty hard bullet to bite, but at the same time, like, I just wanted to keep going, and I did. And a lot of people will get kind of set back and like get in their feelings and be like, oh, well, this person doesn't support me, like I must be doing something wrong. It does not mean that you're doing something wrong. It means that they just don't support you. That's just what it is. They don't support you until it's popular to support you. Most creators, again, end up stopping for a bunch of reasons, typically because they don't see any fruits of their labor for a while. But the creators that continue going start to recognize that, the people that they thought that were going to support them aren't supporting them. And it really does suck. But if you want to continue on in your endeavors, you have to just keep persevering regardless of who's supporting you and regardless of, what people are saying about you, where they're talking about you, because you will quickly realize that people are talking about you, whether it be positive or negative. That was definitely something that I had to recognize and just kind of get over, to be totally honest. You just got to get over it and keep persevering anyway. Now we are moving on to the setting powder I'm going to set. Okay, next thing on the list is you have to remove negative people. This is related to the last one in that you have to persevere regardless of how people are supporting you or aren't supporting you. But you'll also have to remove all the negativity, because some people just genuinely don't care about what you're doing, but they are just negative Nancys and in their own life. Like, people just want to complain. And if it's one thing that I hate is a complaining person. Oh my gosh. I have blocked it. Honestly, I just think it's so annoying to hear the same complaints over and over again. We have all had that friend. I know we have. It was probably during college. At least mine was. We've all had that friend that continues to complain about the same thing over and over again. And then when they get the opportunity to change the thing that they keep complaining about, They don't change and they keep complaining. Oh my God, it's so annoying. It is so annoying. So in this industry especially, you really have to keep your peace because there's so much going on. There's just so many distractions and so many things you can get caught up in. You have to keep your peace, and the easiest way to keep your peace is by removing the negative people. Now, a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, well, you know, they're entertaining. Oh, it keeps it interesting, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes peace is boring. It is what it is. I'm sorry, I don't know how I'm supposed to tell you. Sometimes having peace is boring, but it is worth it because you don't have to deal with all the other BS that comes with not having peace. So yeah, removing the negative people is going to benefit you in the long run. Also, and I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, if you've ever gotten rid of a negative person in your life and all of a sudden everything just opens up again and you're like, oh, wow. Actually, everything's now working out for me. Actually, all the opportunities that I want are actually coming to me. Actually, I didn't even have a problem with the thing I thought. Everything is being fixed. Everything, all of a sudden now, I have no problems. All the solutions are here. Yeah, it's because a negative person was holding you back. That's what it is. It is. It really is. Because negative energy will just suck the life out of you. A lot of people don't realize because it may be the person that's like closest to them, or you know, maybe they're like closest friends or long-term, acquaintances or whatever, but you have to get rid of the negative people. And like I said, I have literally blocked some of my long-term followers because they insist on being negative in my comments. And I don't even want to read it anymore. Like, I just don't want it in my vicinity. I don't want it in my area. I don't want to be bothered with it. So yeah, moving negative people is an absolute must. Let's move on to eyebrows. Next is, in this industry, especially if you want to have a long-term career, you have to constantly be learning and evolving. And what gets people stuck in any kind of business, but especially in the creator industry, is that people refuse to change. I have met so many people that have been in this industry for longer than I have. I've been in it for almost 5 years. So longer than I have, and they have remained in the same place, even though I have grown, changed, and adjusted. I've gotten, different opportunities than they have. I've just been able to do a little bit more in my career because I have been willing to change. That's really it. It's not anything crazy. I'm not doing crazy rocket science back here, guys. I'm really not. It's just that I recognize when things have to change and I take action on it. And a lot of people will wait. They'll wait for someone else's approval. They'll wait for, the right time, which hint, 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 there's never a right time. The right time to do it is literally right now. But a lot of people will stay stuck in whatever it is that they have been doing for years and years on end and just be like, oh, well, it'll work out. Well, you know what that also is called? The definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. You have to be constantly evolving if you want to stay on top of your career goals, or really any goals. Like, you just have to be changing and you have to have a thirst for knowledge. And on my channel, I talk a lot about books, and I talk a lot about newest books that I find interesting and things that I think would also benefit you guys, especially as creators, because there are other people who know more than you. That's just the truth. People do know more than you, and it would benefit you to learn from them and to sit down and read a damn book every now and again. Listen to a new podcast. It really does not hurt you at all. But people that remain the same and remain in the same places are the people that insist on not learning. They insist on not changing. They don't want to pivot. They're like, oh, well, this was my thing. Okay, girl, well, if you want to remain relevant, you need to change and get a new thing. Okay, you need to figure out something else. Or we'll go back to people and ask other people their opinions, over and over again, and be like, oh, I'm just thinking about it. Stop thinking about it and start doing something. Take action. Use the knowledge that you are acquiring and actually go out and apply it, because no one's gonna do it for you. You can read all the books in the world, but if you do not apply any of the information, it's not gonna do anything for you. So yeah, I think one of the things that have really allowed me to be successful, especially in gaining over 100,000 followers on Instagram alone this year, absolutely insane. I gained over 100,000 followers on TikTok as well this year. This year was crazy for me. And it's because I have been able to acquire new knowledge and then apply said knowledge. It's not as hard as you make it out to seem. You just have to be able to take action and to pivot very, very quickly. I'm going to do one final spray of the setting spray. And now we're heading into lashes. So the next thing that I think that has made me really successful in this creator industry, especially in the last 2 years, after me moving to LA, is that I have insisted on standing by the people that actually genuinely support me. So 2 things with this. When you start to accomplish some of your goals, when you start to stand out, when you really start to gain that attention that you have been wanting, all this time, there are people that would come out the woodworks and be like, oh, I always supported you. I always knew you could do it. I always stood beside, da, da. Those are the leeches. I know you don't want to hear me say it, but that's what they are. They're the leeches. But there are also people who genuinely do support you, right? Who are standing by and like, yeah, I saw you do that. That was dope. I really admire what you're doing. I feel inspired by you. Like, I really loved your content. People who genuinely support what you are doing. And those people. The people that are genuinely supporting you. The people that are faking support you. It's not a mystery. You got to call Sherlock Holmes to figure out the answer. You already know who supports, you already know who doesn't. So one of the things that I have really started to take heed to is showing appreciation for the people who have genuinely supported me, regardless of how many followers I have, of how many bags I have, of how many trips I've gone on. Like, the people who really have been down for me and appreciate me as a creator. And this goes both ways, not just with followers, but also with brands, also with family members, also with everybody. Like, this can literally apply to everybody. There have been plenty of times where people have tried to spin the block on me because when they initially met me, they were like, oh, you only have, 8,000 Instagram followers. Oh, okay. But then a year later, they're like, oh, wow, we just love your content. It is so great. We love it. Those people. You know what I'm talking about, okay? So I truly and only value the people who genuinely support me from the beginning. And maybe not even from the beginning, like from, when I first started my page or when I first started creating content. But when they did come across my page, be like, oh, wow, I really do like this. Like, I really do appreciate what she's doing. I really do value her, And although I may not respond to all of my comments or all of my DMs, I do recognize the profiles and the people that are constantly showing love to my page and also just showing love to me in general. Whether or not it's something that's, related to travel or whatever it is I'm posting about at the time. Like, I just appreciate that through and through. And if there's one thing I've learned being in this industry is that relationships matter 1,000%. And it is so much better to work with people that genuinely value you and that you also align with, as opposed to working with people for clout or for the name or for, potential opportunities. Like, if it's not aligned with you, don't do it. Just don't do it, okay? If you just know in your heart that this ain't what you actually want, don't do it. Don't do it. I think a lot of people get caught up in wanting a certain accolades or wanting to know, like work with certain brands or wanting to be known for a certain thing. And they just get caught up in all the clout chasing. I'm telling you, the clout's not worth it, okay? Go after what is actually aligned to you and everything else will work out so perfectly. I have so many examples of this, but I'm not going to go through it in deep detail. However, I will say that anytime I have spoken to a creator who has said that they have worked with, their brand that they always want to work with, and it was, like a big brand and it was a great name and all these things, they finally get the partnership with that brand and it turns out not to be what they thought it would be. Not because they don't like the product or they don't like, the brand or whatever, but because of the alignment and how that brand or the people that may be working for it or the people that may be involved, it just wasn't really aligned with what they wanted it to be. And instead, they have gotten much better opportunities with people that they really do like and people that they really do value and that also value them. And those people tend to be with smaller brands. All that to say is the name or the clout doesn't actually matter as much as you think it is. And instead, go where you are appreciated, go where you are valued, and work with those people. Focus on those people, and I promise you the support will come from everybody else later. Okay, so as you can tell, we are moving on to hair. I haven't done my lipstick yet because I want to do it after my hair is done. I did wash my hair last night, so it shouldn't be that hard to like zhuzh up, you know what I mean? Okay, the last thing on this list, being completely, totally delusional. And this was a trend on TikTok for a long time about how being delusional really helps you achieve your goals, like just having that blind faith in whatever it is that you were trying to achieve. And the reason why I put this last is because I have so many examples of how being delusional has actually worked out for me, and people typically don't even believe me when I say that everything always works out for me, that they're like, oh, whatever, like it's just, this lucky girl, just whatever. Like, yes, I am a lucky girl. Yes, I am a privileged girl. Yes, all these things have worked out for me, and it's because I have been so delusional and persevering through all the chances and all the times when things weren't working out for me. The biggest example that I want to talk about today is actually my move to Los Angeles. So if you guys don't know, I used to live in Delaware. I'm from New Jersey, and when I started creating content, I was living in Delaware. I was in graduate school, and I always knew that I wanted to live in LA. So when I was younger, growing up, my mom would always talk about LA and how great it was and how she loved living here when she did, because she had lived here in her early 20s. And I just had this idea of LA in my mind of like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to live there someday. All the time that I was in graduate school, back when I thought I was going to be a full-time engineer for the rest of my life, I was like, I cannot wait to get a job and move to LA. So the entire time that I was in graduate school, I was like, I'm going to live in LA. It doesn't really matter what I do. Like, that's what I'm going to do when I live there. I have my engineering job or my salary job or whatever, and live in LA, and that's going to be the place for me. By the time that I decided, so around oh my gosh, I think my 4th year of graduate school, I had decided that actually being an engineer wasn't for me, that I wasn't going to pursue this job, as a full-time career, and instead I was going to start to pursue full-time content creation. I was like, oh, obviously I'm moving to LA. Like, makes sense. Duh. However, in my actual reality at the time, there was no chance I was actually moving to LA. It just did not make any sense. For one thing, I was working with a graduate student salary. So when you have to get an apartment, you obviously need to show that you have income to be able to pay for said apartment. And the stable income that I had was my graduate school income, and it wasn't a lot. It wasn't anything. It definitely was not 3 times the rent, right? So, or whenever I was sad and really upset about my life and how it was playing out in Delaware, I would just daydream, and I would go on Zillow and I would look at a bunch of apartments in Los Angeles and see where I could move. And I would just apartment shop. And it came down to one day, I was just so frustrated with my apartment complex. I was so pissed off about my boss and about my job. And I was just like, screw this. I'm going to LA to find an apartment. Prior to this day, I had only been to LA one time, by the way. That was when I was, oh my God, do you see this gray hair? Okay, we're gonna cut that out. Okay, anyway, prior to me looking at an apartment in LA, I had only been to LA one time. And that was when I was, I believe, 16 years old. But I remember walking on Hollywood Boulevard and being like, oh my gosh, this great place. All these stars on the ground, like this area, like I love it. Fast forward to now, I actually don't like Hollywood Boulevard, but that's not the point of the story. Anyway, I decided that day when I was really frustrated about my apartment, about my job and my whole, life situation, I was like, screw this, I'm buying a flight, I'm going to LA. And I did. I've just bought the flight, and I'm like, I'm going to take off work. I'm going to go there. I'm going to look for apartments. I have a weekend to do it, and I'm going to figure it out. And then I started to get really serious about this list, right? So I wrote down all of the apartments that I wanted to go to, and I told the story before my channel, but I guess I'm still telling it right now. Anyway, I had a list of all the apartments I wanted to go to. I called all those apartments. I set up appointments. I got a rental car and I went to LA and I started to look at these apartments, and every single apartment that I went to that weekend was awful. Oh, I hated those apartments. They were so the thing is, I was looking for a creator apartment. So I knew I was gonna be working from home. I also knew that I needed to have great lighting. I wanted to have a bunch of plants in my home because plants just make me happy. So I was like, yeah, I need to have sunlight so my plants can grow. I also want to be in a great area that's pretty walkable and I can get around pretty easily. I wanted to be in an area that was close to where I knew all of the influencer events were going to be, but I didn't want to necessarily be in the city. Like, I didn't want to be living down the street from an influencer event area, but wanted to be like nearby where I could just like Uber to it. I also wanted to have a walk-in closet. I'm like, I know I'm gonna have a lot of clothes. I also really just wanted to have like a place where I felt comfortable and I felt safe. And like I said, when I got to the first apartment, I was like, oh my God, that was like one of the worst. It was just like really dark. It was very old. It didn't looked online. And I was like, okay, I have 5 other apartments to go to this weekend. I can figure it out. Now, when I went to one of the, I think it was actually the first one of the people that worked at the desk, she came downstairs and she was actually filling in for someone that day. So she didn't work at that building, but she worked at another building. And I came out of the tour and she was like, so what did you think? And I was like, not for me. And she was like, why? What's wrong? And I was like, well, this just isn't a right fit. Like, these are all the things I'm looking for. And I told her all the things that I just said. And she was like, I think I have a great apartment for you. let me, get you on the list to get a tour. She's like, it's last minute and we get a lot of tours there, but let me see if I can fit you in. And I was like, okay. So I go to all these other apartments. And in case you don't know, LA has a lot of traffic. So I'm driving on the city the whole weekend by myself, by the way. I get caught in traffic like 2 or 3 times. It was nightmarish. It was really bad. And I could not find a single apartment that I liked. I was like, this is awful. Like, why is this so bad? I can't find anything. Like, what am I going to do? What if, I leave here and I don't have an apartment? Like, how is this going to work out? I have no idea. So I go to Target. Maybe that's why I go to Target so much now. But I go to Target and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to sit in Target and I'm going to have like a Frappuccino and I'm just going to figure out what I'm going to do. So I'm there, I'm sitting in Target and I get a phone call and it's the girl that I had met that was a property manager at the first property that I went to. And she was like, hey, India, we can fit you in for an apartment tour. Can you come by in the next 30 minutes? And I was like, yes, I can. Now, realistically in LA, you cannot get really anywhere in 30 minutes unless it's like 3 blocks over. So I was like, I need to make it there. So I rush back into the car, drive on over. It takes me 45 minutes to get there. I pull up and as I walk in, they're like, we're about to close the office. And I'm like, but I need this tour. I flew across the country for this. Just please let me tour. And they're like, okay, we'll let you tour. So I take the tour. Again, every other tour that I'd gone on was awful. I go on the tour and it's like self-guided, so I can just go by myself. And I walk in the unit, like the model unit, and immediately I was just like, my breath was taken away. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the place. This is where I'm gonna live. I hadn't felt like that at any other place that I'd gone to, so I knew that it was the right place for me. After I toured, I was like, okay, this is where I'm moving, right? Now I have to figure out how I can show that I make enough money to live in this apartment. So I ended up flying back home to Delaware. I went back to my apartment. I put in my notice to my job. I said, hey, I'm leaving. Then I had to get my actual apartment, right? So I hadn't actually applied for the apartment. I just toured it. I filled out the application online and the application says there was something where the rules had changed and they needed different information from me and they just immediately rejected my application. I was like, wait a minute, hold up. I am doing all the things that you told me how to do when I was there in person, like what's going on. So I spent the next week, every single day, I would wake up early. I would go to the lab because that was where I was working at the time. I would run all my experiments early ahead of schedule so that when the LA offices opened, which was 10 a.m. Pacific time, so 1 p.m. Eastern time, I would dedicate 2 hours, maybe even 3 sometimes, being on the phone to talk to people so I can get this apartment. Now, below and behold, I have the apartment. I live in it now. I've been in it for the last 2 years. But that entire story is to say that I was so delusional about this apartment and also about my move to LA that I moved before there was any physical evidence in my life that it was actually going to happen. Like to anyone else that I had spoken to when I'd gotten back, they were like, oh, what did you do in LA? I was like, oh, I just looked at apartments. And they were like, why? You're not even almost done with school. Why would you look at apartments? How are you going to show them that you have money? Do you have a job? Do you have a job lined up? What are you doing? People were looking at me like I was crazy. And I was. I'll admit it, I was. I mean, I had to be crazy. But all that to say is that when you are really going after what it is that you want to do, when you really, really, really want to be successful and you know that there is something else meant for you in life, you have to take the chances on yourself. You have to be so completely irrationally delusional and believing that everything will work out for you. I had no evidence in my life that this would even work out for me, but here I am, right? And it's because of all things that I just said. I was consistent regardless of who was supporting me. I persevered through everything. I also analyze my data, right? So any of the videos that I've made, any of that, I look at all of that to see what actually is working my platform instead of just wasting my time and posting random things. I'm constantly learning, and I share all the things that I learn on this channel too, so you can go and take a look at it. And then I also just show appreciation for people that really do support me. All those things add up in combination with being completely and totally delusional has made me and put me to where I am right now in this place. So if you're trying to be a creator in 2025, please know that it is totally possible for you. It is not saturated. I hate people say that. It is not saturated. You just have to stand out. You can't do what everyone else is already doing. You have to be someone that is completely and totally different. And you have to be consistent. You have to follow things that I said. So if you're someone who's really looking to be a creator and you want to make this your thing. Like, you want this to be either just like a side income or you want this to be a full-time gig, I do have a creator course that is linked in the description box, and I teach you all the ins and outs of how to be a creator, how to analyze your data, how to create great content, how to edit that content, how to monetize that content. All of it I teach it and go over it in the course, so that's gonna be linked in the description. But I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a really great new year. Bye.